Donald Trump has wanted Greenland for a long time, and it's not that crazy an idea. I mean, think about it. Have you heard of the Louisiana Purchase? That's an American thing. In 1803, a lot of land was bought from France. Remember, this was the age of empires. And more recently, remember Russia used to own Alaska. In fact, there's still some Russian-style churches up there in Alaska for those who went on the Rebel News cruise. It was bought in 1867 from Russia, and it was considered a foolish expenditure of money. They called it, the Secretary of State at the time was William Seward. They call it Seward's folly to buy Alaska. It was just for a number of millions of dollars, which of course would be 10 or 20 times that today. But what a bargain, the trillions of dollars of mineral wealth there, plus don't even get started on the military and strategic purpose there. There were other purchases of land too, from Mexico. And did you know that the United States even bought the Philippines in the late 1800s? For $20 million, they just bought the Philippines from Spain. Canada has done this too, a little bit different, but Canada bought Rupert's Land, which was basically the vast expanse of the Northern Shield, 1.5 million square miles, bought for a song in 1869 from the Hudson's Bay Company that owned it. Isn't that funny? Canada bought the land from a company. The U.S. even bought land from Denmark itself before. Denmark controls and owns Greenland. But the U.S. bought, I don't know if you know about those little islands in the Caribbean. Again, that's a place we went to on a Rebel cruise once. The Virgin Islands in the Caribbean were Danish. So the idea of buying territory or swapping territory is not unheard of. It's not just discovering it or conquering it. Countries buy and sell land. Now, Rebel News sent reporters to Greenland in 2019 when Trump last mused about it. I want to show you some of those videos. They're sort of fun to watch. It was very bleak out there. It reminded me of when we sent a journalist up to Nunavut, Iqaluit, I think it was. Here is Jessica Sviatonevsky, our reporter at the time. I guess it's 7 years ago now, in Greenland. Take a look.
Would you ever want an American passport?
If I can use it all around the world, yes.
Would you ever want an American passport?
Yeah.
It'd be easier to get around, right?
Yes.
Would you want one?
Yes, I will.
Would you ever want an American passport?
No, I guess I'm happy right here where I am, here in Greenland.
Do you want an American passport?
Oh, I don't know. It's just many people think Trump is a person that does his way like unpredictable, but he's not.
Would you want an American passport?
Yeah.
Do you want to make Greenland great again?
Yes, make Greenland great again.
Make Greenland great again.
Some people, were warm to the idea. Others weren't. Seward himself looked into buying Greenland 150 years ago. Nothing happened. Would have been quite something for him to buy up more land. In World War II, I mentioned that Denmark owns and controls Greenland. In World War II, Denmark fell to the Nazis. And I should say, I should just tell you a neat little thing about Denmark. They saved all their Jews. There were a few thousand Jews in Denmark, not that many, but it was so offensive to the Danes that the Nazis wanted to kill them. They sneaked them across the water into Sweden and saved them. It's a remarkable story. But like I say, Denmark did fall to the Nazis. So the U.S. stepped into Greenland because it was a Danish territory and they didn't want it falling to the Nazis. And it was an important base of operations, the North Atlantic, for the Allies. After the Second World War, U.S. President Truman offered the Danes $100 million in gold to buy Greenland. Isn't that incredible? $100 million gold. That's just quite a touch, isn't it? It was rejected, but the U.S. Had an enormous presence there during the Second World War, and they've been there ever since. In fact, it was an important station during the Cold War for all sorts of bombers. It was called Thule Air Base. Thule is how it's spelled, but I think it's pronounced Thule, Thule Air Base. Used to have 6,000 Americans stationed there during the Cold War. Talk about putting the cold in the Cold War. Now it's been renamed, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right again, the Pitofik Space Base, which sounds pretty cool, but it's really just the Thule Air Base again. Just only 150 Americans now. They call it Space Base, I think, because really that is where you're going to detect ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, coming over from Russia. If you look at the map, normally we look at the map where, the equator is the middle and things are distorted at the top and at the bottom, the two poles, because normally we don't care about that when we're looking at the map. If you look at a round globe from the top, or look at this map here, you can see how incredibly strategic Greenland is. It is an enormous buffer of land between Russia and North America. And in fact, where it's situated is nearer to where most of the Russian ICBM bases are. So it's a very important place if your goal is to shoot down rockets. And I don't know if you remember, a few months ago now, Donald Trump talked about the Golden Dome instead of the Iron Dome that Israel has. He talked about an anti-missile system that Trump wanted to design to knock down missiles. I think that's one of the reasons why Trump is so focused on Greenland and why it's called the space base. I think Trump wants to build a whole battery of anti-nuclear anti-missiles on Greenland. And if you look at the map, there's no other place to put it. It is a largely uninhabited place. It was run by America, saved by America during the Second World War. You had an enormous population of American soldiers there throughout the Cold War. America's made an offer on it before. I think Trump really believes in it. Now, there has not been an outright threat by Trump to seize the country. It's not a country, to seize the territory. But there has been a careful ambiguity in the language. Carolyn Leavitt, the Trump's spokesman, Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy chief of staff, they both said things that didn't say Trump would invade Greenland, but didn't say he wouldn't either. They had sort of a strategic ambiguity. Here, take a look at how that sounded.
Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
Right,
States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation. That's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily.
That's audacious, which is, of course, Trump's middle name. And it has offended NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Remember what NATO is about. It's all for one and one for all. Article 5 of NATO says if any country is attacked, it's like all countries are attacked. And what happens if the United States takes territory from another NATO country, namely Greenland, which belongs to Denmark? It's quite incredible. And I think it is a real challenge to NATO, and a variety of NATO countries put out a statement, very interesting. They said they take Trump seriously on defense, but they won't accept the violation of sovereignty. Some say it would be the end of NATO if Trump took Greenland, and I got to tell you, it would be hard to imagine otherwise. I mean, how could Denmark itself remain in? And if Denmark left, probably other countries too would leave. But I have a theory on this, and it's because I've read the book, The Art of the Deal. That was Trump's semi-autobiographical book about how he does business. And it's a very interesting book. It's worth reading for its own sake, but I think it really, Trump, I think, is quite candid in that book. And one of the things he talks about is that he, in negotiations, takes an outrageous position that he knows is outrageous to redefine where a normal outcome would be. So if the answer is, can we have it? No, you can't. Can we buy it? No, you can't. That's a normal conversation. But if it's, I'm going to take it, and you just saw me take out Nicolas Maduro in Caracas, Venezuela. So like if you say something so outrageous, we're going to invade and we're going to just take it, and what are you going to do? You can then abandon that position, and now a more moderate position is, okay, well, you'll just sign a 100-year lease and we have access to, like, I don't know what the normal outcome would be after that audacious stuff. So that's Trump's art of the deal. He says he does that. Could that be what's going on here? I think so. The U.S., like I say, has a base there and really could do what it wants. Denmark is a pretty small country with a pretty small military, and I really don't think that they would be able to stop America in any way, but neither can they do what America wants to be done, which is to have a serious military up there, not just to stop Russian ICBMs, but there's Russian ships and Chinese ships. Everyone's poking around up there. I think some of this is Trump wanting to make history also, whether it was Panama and the Panama Canal or reshaping Latin America with the Monroe Doctrine that he's now calling the Donroe Doctrine. I think Donald Trump is in a very unusual place for a president because he was shot at, hit but not killed, because the Democrats did all the lawfare on him, trying to put him in jail, and because he won in a miraculous way. I think he really thinks that it's a historic presidency, and he measures every day by the minute. And I think he's trying to do so many things, and I think he is looking for a legacy. People point out that he, values a state dinner with the King of England, and he values being nominated for the Nobel Prize. I think he does. I think he wants to go down as a historic president. And just like buying Alaska was historic, and the Louisiana Purchase, and all these things are taught in history books, and Seward's folly is now Seward's genius. I think Trump wants to do that. I think he wants to make some history. I think a lot of it is very genuine, and there's no way that Denmark can do the proper job itself. I looked it up. Denmark's military budget is about $10 billion a year U.S. I think that's like, 1% of the U.S. military budget? There's just no way that Denmark can lift the load. Trump made a joke about the Danish increase in military spending in Greenland, that they added one dog sled. Here, take a look at this. He said this on Air Force One the other day.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
By the way, being on dog sleds is a legitimate way to patrol. Greenland itself. We call them rangers in Canada, and they are on sleds also, but it's not enough. I think that was Trump's point is, yeah, it's good to have the patrols on the snow, on the dog sled. That's a good way to do it. But we're in the age of missiles and anti-missiles, and it's just not enough to have that old-fashioned approach. Isn't it a fact that Trump is showing that Europe, at the end of the day, is a lot of talk, but can't actually do anything major, strategic, historic? Isn't he proving that?